Hey folks, today I'm going to do something a little different. Well, I say today, but I mean going forward. So obviously you could see me, so that's a new thing. I'm trying that back out again. Also, when I went state by state, there was a lot of people who showed me the things I missed and things like that. So I'm going to be returning to the states, going through them alphabetically like I did last time. The difference is this time I'm going to be presenting actual ghost tours, places that you, the listener or the viewer, can go out and experience yourself. With Halloween coming, I'm going to do something a little ambitious. So I'm going to be in a mad dash right now to get through the 50 states before Halloween. It's very ambitious of me. I know how my schedule sometimes gets a little crazy, but the good news is I'm actually, I don't know if it's good news or bad news, but the news is I'm leaving my full-time job to do this full-time. So you guys won. You got me. So anyway, enjoy the ghost tour of Alabama, which is kicking off the ghost tour series. Do you believe in ghosts? Join me on a journey through America's dark and haunted past as we explore the ghost stories and folklore that have been passed down for generations. What scares you? Let's find out. I'm Christopher Feinstein, and this is Haunted American History. UNA has been hanging around the Florence neighborhood since 1855, so it's no surprise that they've got their fair share of spooky stories. Whether you heard it in passing on a campus tour or blamed it on a flickering light bulb, chances are you heard about the resident ghosts. They're said to wander through many of UNA's buildings, which makes sense when you think about how much history is packed into every brick and stone there. University historian Dr. Jeffrey Bibby says that this isn't surprising for an old place like theirs. We've been hanging around since 1855, he points out, and some of these buildings have been standing even longer than before that. It's only natural that there be tales and legends tied to them. And if you're really into the eerie side of things, don't miss out on the Ghost Walk, hosted by UPC each year. It's guided through most of the haunted spots on the campus. The University of North Alabama, or UNA as it's affectionately known and how as I've been referring it to, has a reputation for being home to a few otherworldly residents. The most well-known of these spectral inhabitants is Priscilla, the ghost who supposedly haunts the Gilead University Center. Or Gilead, I don't know if that's pronouncing that right. If someone went to UNA, please correct me. Now, you may be wondering why she chose this particular building. Well, back in the day when UNA was still Florence State College and the GUC was O'Neill Hall, that was where the women lived. That was their dormitory. Built in 1913 and later replaced by the GUC in 1986, O'Neill Hall had its fair share of stories. But none were as chilling or as persistent as those about Priscilla. Her story varies depending on who you ask. Everyone seems to have their own version, but there's one detail they all agree on. Poor Priscilla ended her life in an elevator shaft. Some say it was because of disappointing grades, others whisper it was over a heartbreak. As for when she started haunting the place, well, that's another mystery. Local author Deborah Glass says reports date back to 1984, but who really knows? One thing is clear though, Priscilla isn't out to harm anyone. Her mournful cries are more likely to give you a good scare than anything else. Another hotspot for paranormal activity is Wesleyan Hall, or Wesleyan Hall. Wesleyan is probably what it's pronounced. This old building has been part of UNA since way back in 1856, and it now houses the departments of psychology and sociology and foreign language. Once upon a time, it was pretty much the heart of the university, housing everything from a library to serving as an administration building for numerous presidents. But Wesleyan Hall has another claim to fame. During the Civil War, Union troops led by William T. Sherman took over its lecture hall, and that's where we get into the second ghost story. The spirit haunting Wesleyan Hall is known by some as Turris Fidelis, and his backstory is a little bit of a mystery. Some say he's the son of a Confederate soldier. Others think that he may have been a soldier himself. The most widely accepted story, however, involves a boy named Jeremiah. Now, depending on who's telling the story, Jeremiah was either a drummer boy or the son of one of Sherman's officers who tragically drowned in Cypress Creek. It is said that you can still hear his watery footsteps on the second and third floors of Wesleyan Hall. Some folks even claim that they've seen him. There's another twist to this tale, though. It seems Florence citizens once kidnapped Jeremiah in an attempt to dissuade Sherman from burning down their city. Despite returning Jeremiah unharmed after Sherman threatened to burn the city anyway, it is thought that Turris Fidelis might be seeking revenge for this act. In an old article from the 1950s, writer Joanne Harvey wrote about her encounter with what she believed was Sherman's ghost in Wesleyan Hall. She had been there alone at night when she found him in a third-floor office. They had an eerie conversation where Harvey revealed that she was searching for an article, and Sherman claimed to be doing his own investigative mission, trying to find out who had kidnapped Jeremiah. After their chilling exchange, Harvey made sure to get out of there quick, and I really can't blame her. There's an old bookstore off campus at 472 North Court Street. It is now used as a storage place for the library. Yeah, the same one that used to be Kappa Sigma Fraternity House before it got a makeover in the 80s. Well, legend has it, there is a little girl ghost named Molly who haunts that place. The story goes like this. Once upon a time, Molly lived there with her family and her family dog, who then actually bit Molly's hand, and the poor kid got rabies. Or maybe she was playing in the street with her dog and she got hit by a car. There's a couple of different ways that this story is told. Either way, she's been around since the 30s, waving at people who walk through the streets and waving at passing cars and parades. She actually even runs up to people in the street and always asks if anyone has seen her dog. Then you make your way down to Colby Hall. And you know, people who are familiar with UNA, that used to be Cortlandt Mansion back in the 1830s. It was built for John and Margaret Simpson, who were quite popular in town thanks to their extravagant parties. Now, during the Civil War, both Confederate and Union troops stayed there when it was owned by the Irvins. Fast forward to the 1990s, and it was donated to the UNA, where admissions and recruiting now live out their days. The ghost tale there involves some university professor named Dr. Harrington, who had a thing for Margaret Simpson after dancing with her once. Margaret's brother John wasn't too happy about that, so he confronted him, which ended up costing him his life. Nowadays, people see a ghost of a woman dressed in a white blouse and a navy skirt hanging around Colby Hall, who likes things done just so. Some people reckon that it's Margaret herself. Next on our haunted tour is Norton Auditorium, which, despite being built as recently as 1968, has its own resident spook named George. He's a bit of a prankster, messing around with the lights and making creepy footstep sounds on catwalks above the stage. Some say he was a construction worker who died on the job. Others think that he used to live in one of the houses that was knocked down to build the auditorium. Lastly, we have Willingham Hall. Now, it doesn't get much as attention as the other haunted spots, but it still has its quirks. It used to be an all-girls school called Locustell Academy from 1834 to 1843, and then it became a men's dormitory in 1939. Now it's home to English, history, politics, justice, law, and the philosophy departments. The ghosts here aren't as famous or anything, but the faculty often hear footsteps and pounding when they're alone, and some swear they've even seen a little girl running around. Maybe she's from the Locustell days. Now, university historian Dr. Bibby is aware that folktales can sometimes simply be just that, folktales. The stories can become easily conflated and twisted with every storyteller. Many of the ghosts and their subsequent backstories cannot be confirmed. These buildings often had a life before they were part of UNA, Bibby said. We think of places like Rogers Hall and Colby Hall. They were homes where families lived. They have stories that tie not just to the institution's history, but to their previous existence. For skeptics, many of these apparent ghosts can be dismissed as simply a noise in the night or a creaky floor in an old building. The history of the buildings add to the spookiness of the place. Places with rich history tend to be subject to folklore and ghost stories, as we're all very aware of. There are lots of people that have walked this campus and lived in these buildings, and have been a part of what we think now as UNA, Bibby said. This is just a little way of keeping their memories alive. UNA's buildings have developed a personality of their own. With its long history and an endless amount of stories that have taken place within the walls of each building on campus, thousands of people have walked along Kramer Way with the hopes of furthering their education and leaving a mark somewhere. Think of everybody who have ever walked those floors, and everybody in there who has ever stressed over an exam. Everybody who has celebrated, whether it's graduation or a special moment in their lives. Exciting things have happened, and maybe even sad things. Students have formed a community that celebrated and mourned together. We don't ever want to forget that these buildings are living, breathing places. Now we travel from UNA over to Birmingham, Alabama. And nestled in the vibrant heart of Birmingham, proudly stands the majestic Redmont Hotel. As the oldest operating hotel in Birmingham, the Redmont has been a silent witness to the rise and fall of numerous industries, fluctuations in fortunes, and has been privy to countless secrets whispered in its elegantly adorned walls. The story of the Redmont Hotel unfurls during the Roaring Twenties, a time that has been characterized by opulence and unbridled ambition. It was erected at a time when Birmingham's iron and steel industry were burgeoning at an unprecedented pace, transforming the city into a bustling hub of commerce and activity. The hotel swiftly emerged as a symbol of luxury and sophistication, drawing wealthy travelers from far-flung corners of the globe and influential figures among diverse walks of life. Among its distinguished guests was legendary singer Hank Williams, who spent his last night alive in this grand establishment before his untimely death. As decades rolled by, the Redmont Hotel remained a steadfast beacon amidst Birmingham's consistently evolving landscape. The hotel underwent several refurbishments over time, with meticulous care taken to preserve its historic charm while simultaneously updating its amenities to cater to contemporary guests. Despite offering modern comforts like plush accommodations and high-speed internet connectivity, it managed to retain an alluring aura of timelessness, a sense that history still thrummed beneath its polished surfaces. The Redmont is not merely a treasure trove of historical anecdotes, but also serves as a haven for supernatural enthusiasts. The hotel is famously known for being haunted. Its corridors echo with ghostly whispers, while shadowy figures from eras long past are often seen filtering through the dimly corridors. Guests have shared spine-chilling accounts with their encounters with spiritual inhabitants, who seem to have made the Redmont their eternal home. One such renowned apparition is the ghost of a woman who's dressed in white. She is frequently spotted gliding through the 9th floor, her presence fleeting yet indelible. Guests have narrated how they watched her materialize out of thin air, only to vanish just as abruptly, leaving behind an eerie chill in the air and an inexplicable sense of melancholy that lingers long after her disappearance. Among the Redmont's spectral residents, some guests and staff believe that the spirit of country legend Hank Williams still haunts the corridors. Mysterious strings of music, thought to be his haunting melodies, have been heard echoing throughout the silent hallways in the dead of night. Some guests even claim to have felt an otherworldly presence, as if the country legend himself were still wandering restlessly around this hotel, eternally bound to the place that he met his death. The paranormal activity at the Redmont extends beyond mere apparitions. Guests and staff alike have reported hearing disembodied voices whispering unintelligible words and unexplained footsteps resonating through the empty halls. Some recount feeling sudden cold spots or experiencing unnerving sensations like being touched by unseen hands, which is very common in places like this. The rich history that is spread throughout every brick and beam seem to bleed into the present, making past events seemingly alive. Now, despite its eerie reputation, Birmingham's beloved Redmont Hotel continues to attract visitors with its unique charm. Its rooftop lounge offers breathtaking views of the city skyline, a stark contrast to the ghostly tales that pervade its lower levels. Visitors from across continents come seeking a unique blend of historic elegance intertwined with some supernatural intrigue. that defines this iconic establishment. Now, as darkness descends over Birmingham each evening, the Redmont Hotel stands tall as a silent sentinel, guarding nearly a century's worth of secrets within its wall. And for those brave enough to step foot in its hallowed halls, it offers an intriguing glimpse into a world where history intertwines with hauntings, where bygone eras are not forgotten, but continue to resonate with the present, and a place where its spectral inhabitants from yesteryears still roam its corridors. The Redmont Hotel is a place that I hope to visit one day, and when I do, you guys come with me. Folks, I'd like to thank you all for just being here with me and experiencing this with me. I'm really going to try to do this on video, so this way I can share images of the places I'm talking about and show you like just how to get there and any information about like ghost tours that are provided for that area. So if you listen to this and you're like, you know what, I want to go see that myself, let me contact a local tour company that offers. Now, I don't have any kind of dealings with any of these tour companies. This is just places that I found that offer tours to these buildings. So I'm sure if you just look up Ghost Tour Redmont Hotel or Ghost Tour UNA, you'll find a laundry list of places that provide tours like that. So hopefully you can bring me along with you. Or if you don't want to bring a tour, just go to these places yourself. Throw me in your earphones and, you know, let old Chrissy boy guide you through these places. I just want to thank everybody for the reviews. The reviews have been pouring in. They're fantastic. The comments on the episodes, thank you. Please keep them coming. The reviews on Apple have been tremendous. Please keep them up. If you haven't left a review yet, the reviews are the best way to help this show. They find every day I get more and more people saying, hey, your show just came along my timeline. I'm so happy I found you. And that can't happen without you guys. So I love to thank you all so much for that. Really, from the deepest bottoms of my gooey center. Thank you. I'm slaying it with Juliet Landau. That is probably the most fun I've ever had doing a podcast next to Haunt. She's fantastic. We're having such a great time revisiting that show. Anyone's a fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, come on over and listen. She's sharing just incredible behind-the-scenes stuff. We're having interview with other cast members, and we have a couple of big ones coming. I don't want to say any spoilers, but you might want to tune in. San Diego Comic-Con was fantastic. I was on stage in front of 1,000+ screaming Buffy fans. And the trailer we played for them was very well received, and they just seem to be really into it. Just thank you, everybody. In September, I'm going to be down in Orlando at the Fanboy Expo in Orlando. I believe it's September 6th, 7th, and 8th at the Orange County Convention Center. Well, I will be there. I might be doing a panel. It's with Slaying It, but I'm going to try and see if I can get some haunted stuff going there. If not, it's going to be about Slaying It. And if you're there or you're in the Orlando area and you plan on going to that con, come and look for me. I'm going to be probably at Juliet Landau's table, you know, just interacting with people about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But I will always talk haunted stuff with any of you. And I'm going to be more active on YouTube. This is why I'm doing videos. So the YouTube videos will be this, and you know, this will be also available on Spotify. But I'm also going to start visiting haunted locations, haunted attractions, things like that, and bringing you all with me. So that's going to be for YouTube. So if you want to subscribe to my YouTube, give it a watch, check it out. Yeah. So anyway, before I keep rambling, I just want to say thank you all so much. I appreciate everything you guys do, every word that you say, all the reaching out that you do. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. You know, Linn Park in Birmingham, Alabama might strike you as just another peaceful city park at first glance. Let me tell you, if you lean in, really listen, you'll hear the hushed murmurs of its haunted past. The park's spine-chilling reputation isn't just for show. It's grounded in a rich history of heart-wrenching events and hair-raising experiences of those brave souls who ventured there after sunset. Picture this. You're strolling through Linn Park, right smack dab in the heart of Birmingham. You're surrounded by imposing buildings like the Birmingham City Hall and the Jefferson County Courthouse. They were silent witnesses to countless historical moments. Some of those moments were great triumph, while others were steeped in sorrow. Birmingham was a hotbed for justice during the Civil Rights Movement, and Linn Park was no bystander. Protests stirred up dust on its ground, clashes erupted in the confines, and violent confrontations stained its soil. It's almost as if echoes from these times still reverberate through the park, as if the very earth remembers the struggles waged and the sacrifices that were made there. One memory that's deeply etched into the park's history is that from 1963. Birmingham Campaign, it was called, where peaceful protesters met with brutal resistance. Fire hoses turned on full blast and police dogs set loose on men, women, and even children fighting for their rights. The air was practically vibrating with tension and fear back then. Some folks swear they can still feel that energy today when they visit. Visitors of the park often mention an overwhelming sense of sadness washing over them as they walk through, as though they can touch upon lingering pain from those who once stood their ground there. But it's not only history that haunts Linn Park. Tragic accidents and crimes have also left their mark over time. Back in the late 1800s, a streetcar derailed right in the park, causing several fatalities. This incident scarred the park's legacy, and there are those who say on quiet nights you can still hear the screams of those who lost their lives in that crash. More recently, Linn Park has served as a backdrop for various criminal activities. Unsolved murders have left this community feeling uneasy. Tragic incidents, some resulting in the untimely deaths of people, have cast a dark shadow over the park. Locals whisper about restless spirits left behind by these tragedies, poor souls unable to find peace. Visitors to the park often talk of an eerie chill creeping up on them as they wander through. They tell tales of cold spots materializing out of nowhere, sending goosebumps prickling through their skin even on the most balmy of days. Disembodied voices echo in the quiet of night, whispers that seem to spring from nowhere and everywhere all at once. Some folks even claim to have seen ghostly figures that disappear just as quickly as they appear. There's this one particular creepy story about a young woman named Margaret from back in the 1920s. She was head over heels for a soldier who went off to fight in World War I, and he never came back. Heartbroken, Margaret would come to the park every day, hoping against hope for his return, until one icy evening, she was found lifeless on a bench. Her heart had given out from grief, they say. Some visitors swear that they've seen her ghost wandering around dressed in early 20th century attire, forever searching for her lost love. And then there are the urban legends passed down through generations, like campfire stories, each adding another layer to Linn Park's aura. One such tale tells of the Watcher, a spectral figure known to lurk near old oak trees, watching people with an intense gaze that's anything but comforting. Those unlucky enough to cross paths with the Watcher describe the feeling of dread creeping upon them and the sensation of being followed, even in broad daylight. These stories, brimming with goosebump-inducing details and eerie encounters, are what keep Linn Park's haunted reputation alive. Standing there amidst its beauty and history, you can't help but feel the weight of its past. Linn Park is so much more than just a patch of green in the city. It's where history, tragedy, and the supernatural all come together. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, it's hard to deny that Linn Park holds secrets that may never see the light of day. So if you find yourself visiting Linn Park, remember to stay alert, because you never know who or what you might run into in its shadows. Maybe you'll feel the icy touch of a ghostly presence, or hear a soft whisper from those who came before you. Or perhaps, if you're really lucky, or unlucky, you might spot Margaret, still waiting for her soldier to come home. If you ever find yourself in the small town of Abbeville, Alabama, be sure to wrap up your business before the sun sets. The quaint town, nestled in Henry County, is often referred to as the City of Dogwoods, thanks to the countless blooms that dot the landscape. With a history spanning over 2 centuries, Abbeville is brimming with stories and secrets waiting to be uncovered. The town takes great pride in preserving its historical buildings and homes, including the childhood home of civil rights activist Rosa Parks. But there is one piece of history that still lingers in the mind of the locals, causing them to steer clear of the streets after dusk. Her name is Molly. Huggin Molly, to be exact. Rumored to have roamed these streets for over 100 years, her presence is enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. And anyone brave enough to ask about her to the locals will only receive a simple response. That's Molly. Okay, so who is Molly? And why is she hugging people? Huggin Molly is a name that strikes fear into the hearts of Abbeville residents. She is a figure who is deeply ingrained in the town's folklore. Whispers and tales of her terrorizing presence have been passed down for generations, giving rise to a legend that still haunts the town today. According to stories, Huggin Molly stands at an imposing 7 feet tall. With broad shoulders and an unnaturally wide frame, she cuts an intimidating figure as she stalks the streets at night. Her appearance is said to be shrouded in a long, dark cloak or a dress, with a wide-brimmed hat casting a shadow over her face. But it's her glowing red eyes that truly strike fear into those who encounter her. Now, the legend goes that Molly appears out of thin air, suddenly appearing before unsuspecting individuals and enveloping them in a tight hug. At first, it may seem like a kind gesture, but then comes her blood-curdling scream directly into your ear. And if anyone dares to try and run from her grasp, they are met with a relentless pursuit until she catches them. Some versions of the story suggest that Huggin Molly targets naughty children who dare to venture out after dark. That serves as a cautionary tale for parents to keep their little ones close and well-behaved. Would work for me. But deep down, everyone knows that Huggin Molly's presence is much more than a mere story. She's very real and very terrifying. But who was Molly before she was the haunted hugger? The mystery of Molly's identity has been a topic of debate for many years. Countless theories have emerged, each one trying to unravel the riddle that is the haunting Molly. One belief suggests that Molly was once a grieving mother who had lost her only child. In her desperation for comfort and love, she turned to children in the local community and sought them out for hugs. Another tale tells of a young woman walking alone in a dark street, only to meet an untimely death at the hands of a ruthless killer. Could this be why now she haunts the streets, reaching out to embrace people for protection, or trying to protect others from meeting the same fate? Some even argue that Molly was never a ghost, but an actual living human who roamed the streets. Some say that she is a disgruntled professor from the Southern Alabama Agricultural College, and she wanted to scare her students into staying off the streets at night. She devised this persona of Molly and dressed up in this outfit to frighten her students into submission. As for the origin of the name, there are multiple theories. Some believe it stems from her tendency to hug people tightly, which is what I would think, while others suggest it could be a corruption of hugging the Molly, a phrase used to describe clinging onto train tracks in order to avoid being hit by an oncoming train. Now, Molly remains a haunting figure in local folklore and continues to intrigue those who dare to venture out in Abbeville after dark. The last reported sighting of the infamous Huggin Molly was actually in 2010, during Abbeville's annual Yata Abba Day celebration. The town was buzzing with excitement as residents flocked to the streets, eager to partake in the festivities that celebrated their rich cultural heritage. Amidst the hustle and bustle, a local teacher led a group on a tour through the old cemetery. As they made their way through the rows of weathered gravestones, a dark figure suddenly appeared between them. Some claimed it was Huggin Molly herself, known for her legendary habit of hugging unsuspecting victims tightly before disappearing into the night. Others believed to be nothing more than a publicity stunt, but the memory of that encounter lingered long after the figure had stalked off without causing any harm. Now, despite its spooky nature, the legend of Huggin Molly has become an integral part of Abbeville, Alabama's folklore. It has been passed down through generations, and it continues to interest and entertain both locals and visitors alike. The town even celebrates a special day in honor of the legendary figure, Huggin Molly Day, where costumes are donned and tales are shared with delight. Now, in addition to this celebration, a restaurant named Huggin Molly's was opened by a local named Jimmy Rain to tribute the legend. With its charming 1950s theme and its array of mouth-watering dishes ranging from crawfish to pasta, it quickly became a popular spot for both locals and tourists. Growing up hearing stories about Huggin Molly, Jimmy felt compelled to pay homage to her and named his restaurant after her. Now, while skeptics may question the existence of Huggin Molly as an actual entity, her legacy obviously continues to live on in Abbeville's rich history. And whether she's real or simply just a beloved legend, one thing is certain. She adds an air of mystery and charm to this quaint southern town that will never be forgotten. So if you want to check her out, Abbeville hosts the Huggin Molly Day, and just grab a little hotel and go for a stroll at night. Tell Molly Chris sent you. Just don't send it to my door. Thank you.